Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Carla Brown, and I'm a Kumi volunteer. I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, which is Treaty 1 territory. Thank you for joining us for the latest Kumi Now online gathering, as we look at the ways that Israel uses its control of tourism and pilgrimage in Israel and the West Bank for its own benefits while neglecting the needs and interests of Palestinians. Our guests today are George Rishmawi of Siraj Center and Palestine Heritage Trust, and Gheid ten Berge to talk about his new book, Pilgrimage with a Mission. Before we start, I'd like to remind you that this session is being broadcast live on Facebook, so if you do not wish to appear, please turn off your video feed. While you are on Facebook, we would appreciate if you would share one of the links that are being posted in the chat so that others may join this session. We are now inviting people from the audience to tell us how you are applying Kumi Now in your community or are otherwise advocating for Palestine. If you have an idea or a project that you'd like to share for up to 5 minutes in a future meeting, please email us at kumi@kuminow.com. Now it's time for the weekly activism survey. Mark, could you please launch the poll? Please note that in the survey there are 3 questions, so scroll down for the 3rd question, and we'll give you a few minutes right now to read and answer the questions. We'll give you a few more seconds and then we'll close the poll down. So thank you for your responses in the poll. The first question asked about your activism for the week, and we appreciate your responses, sharing what you've been up to. The answer to number 2, about which company initially removed its listings in the illegal Israeli settlements, but later gave in to pressure from Jewish and Israeli activists. For that one, the answer is the second choice, Airbnb. After removing listings for rentals in the illegal settlements, Airbnb was sued by Israeli and Jewish activists who argued that this was somehow a form of religious discrimination against them. Airbnb settled these cases out of court and reinstated the West Bank settlement listings. While Airbnb is donating its share of profits from such listings to nonprofits, this doesn't make up for the fact that it is enabling Israeli settlers to profit from their illegal control of Palestinian land. And for number 3, Israel's control of and profit from the Dead Sea is an example of what? The answer was the first option, tourism annexation. So we hope that you find today's gathering interesting and informative. I'd like to start by having everyone that you'll be seeing today introduce themselves. So we'll start with Omar and then go to George and then go to Gheid.
Yes, my name is Omar Harami and I'm part of the Sabil family here in Jerusalem. I've been part of the Sabil family for over 16 years, working mainly with young adults and advocacy, in addition to some administration stuff. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you. George, can you introduce yourself very briefly?
Oh, sure. Good evening or good morning, everybody. George Rishmawi speaking to you from Bet Sahur, suburb of Bethlehem. I am literally 1 kilometer from Church of Nativity. I was raised and born here in this town, Bet Sahur. It is famous for its non-violent resistance against the Israeli occupation. I was born and raised up during my entire life, and my kids were born under Israeli occupation for my entire life. I can see some faces on that I know for a long time. Good to see you, everybody. It has been a long time. Daryl Myers, Nora Karmi, Maureen Tobin. I am currently the general manager of the Palestinian Heritage Trail, which is a long-distance hiking and community-based trail here in Palestine, the West Bank. I'm also co-founder of Siraj Center. I have been involved with travel and tourism to Palestine for more than 30 years of my life, and as a career for about 24 years. It's community-based tourism and pilgrimages help for my parents to pay for me to go to school. And I am humbly leading a huge network of homestays in the country where we are trying to replicate the experience. And I would say that that's generally what I do. I will be sharing a lot of my humble experience in tourism and travel and cultural heritage with you this evening. It's a pleasure to be with you. I am a father of 2 boys, and my education is English linguistics and literature from Birzeit University, and but I have never used it. So my entire life is actually in tourism and travel. Nice meeting you all.
Thank you. Khalid, can you unmute yourself and introduce briefly? Please remember to unmute yourself. Khalid, we can't hear you. Your mic is still muted.
Okay, my fault. I will short introduce myself. I'm not Gait, but Giet. It's from the English, same English name is Giles, so you understand. I'm a sociologist, and as a retiree, I studied theology, and I did a PhD on Come and See. And I worked a lifetime in the Dutch peace movement, and I am also a co-founder of Kairos Netherlands.
Thank you, Giet. My apologies for mispronouncing earlier. Now we go to the update from the ground in Palestine. Omar, could you please share what's going on?
Thank you. There are major developments that have been taking place in Palestine and Israel in the past week. The major is that Israel, after canceling, rescheduling the flag march in Jerusalem, it is currently taking place now with thousands of Israeli right-wing young people trying to march into the old city of Jerusalem and around Damascus Gate with Israeli flags. This is a yearly demonstration that that takes place to celebrate the occupation of Jerusalem. It comes with great intimidation to the Palestinian community. Palestinians have been also calling for young Palestinians to be present at Damascus Gate and in the old city. Frictions have already started to take place inside Jerusalem. There are reports of over 15 people who have been injured since 5:30 in the last 40 minutes. And people are just expecting the worst. Israel has just also canceled or rescheduled some of the flights. They're afraid that this will also bring more tension with Gaza, and that the same scenario of last month would be repeated with fires being, with rockets being fired. Israel has another, so please hold us in your prayers as we might fall into another cycle of violence starting from now. Israel has a new government. People are asking us from around the world, what do we think about the new government in Israel with Bennett? It really doesn't make a very big difference for us as Palestinians. It's a very weird government that brings a whole different groups of people that do not agree on anything. The only thing that they agreed on is that it's time to get rid of Netanyahu. So Netanyahu is out, and we really don't know if this government with the majority of 1 seat will hold this. Most of the voices in the government are very right-wing and have always harbored bad and negative feelings when it comes to Palestinians. The occupation is still ongoing in the West Bank and Gaza. Last week, 3 Palestinians, 2 of them minors, have been shot and killed 17 have been injured with live ammunition. Israel continues to do large campaigns of arresting Palestinians in villages, refugee camps, and in cities. When Hamas fires rockets, the attention of the world comes to Palestine and Israel. When there isn't much violence happening from the Palestinian side, the cameras just turn away. So the country is in, many of us believe that we are still at the verge of a new intifada or a new uprising that might take place. Unfortunately, that's the reality. We still are in, it feels for us that we're in a continuous nightmare and with very few prospects for hope in the future. Thank you, Carlo.
Thank you for sharing, Omar. We now turn to our main issue of the week and our special guest. As he speaks, if you think of a question, please type it in the chat. And when we get to the question and answer session, I'll try to ask as many of them as possible. Mr. Rishmawi, please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you. And Sabeel is for me as a Palestinian Christian, I'm very, 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 very proud of an organization like Sabeel and all the activism and all the work of Sabeel globally and locally. I want to thank you all for inviting me to be with you this evening. I have several videos and pictures and images and PowerPoint to share. Some of them are pretty old and some of them are fresh. But I will try to share with you as much as I know, as much as I do, this very short period. The idea is we speak about Christian pilgrimages today. Next month, we have the largest gathering on the face of earth, which is the Muslim pilgrimage in Mecca. By the way, next month, it's in less than a month today. Muslim pilgrimage will start in Mecca. It's amazing always for me as a Palestinian Christian to take a look at the Muslim pilgrimage that happens in Mecca every year. But this year is going to be only 60,000 people participating due to COVID-19. But in the past, 3 to 4 million used to gather. One of the most impressive ideas of getting into Al-Haram al-Sharif, into Al-Kaaba in Mecca, is that everybody will be wearing the same clothes. Everybody will be doing exactly the same thing. And everybody, you will not know who's rich or poor. You know, there are guides who can take you around. They are called tawafim. But it's very interesting, the whole idea, when you see people from the top, and you look on the top of Kaaba, you see the millions of people around the Kaaba, they all look the same. You know, it is very interesting and very impressive for me. What do we learn out of this idea? We learn out of this idea that Christian pilgrimages, and as for me as a Palestinian Christians, we are called as well that, you know, in Muslim pilgrimages, people get their hands dirty, get through the gravel and throw at the devil, you know. So what do we do for Christian pilgrimages in getting our hands dirty and doing something? What do we do beside arriving in deluxe motor coaches and touring around and looking from church to church to church to church and going home? It was amazing for me traveling in the US all the time, and I see people, yes, we have been to Israel. Oh yeah, did you meet a Palestinian? Some people will say, maybe our guide was a Palestinian. Some people will say, oh, we have met somebody in a hotel or something. And so people come to these pilgrimages, sadly led by hundreds or thousands of pastors, priests, clergy, tour leaders, travel agencies, and so on, coming ignorant and leaving more ignorant as if they have never been here before. And for me, that is amazing. I have been seeing and experiencing this my entire life. For me as a Palestinian Christian living under occupation, what does it mean to come in a pilgrimage to Palestine? there are several ideas that we can discuss here. Number one, according to the call of the heads of churches, 30% of people's time need to be spent with the local Palestinian Christians and local Palestinians. 30% of people's time, and a lot of the people fail to do so. Very small percentage of people. I know some of you that I have looked at the names, and I know many of you have been doing even more than 30% of this. But it is very important that when we speak about it, help keeping the church alive. The church is not alive. That why? Because of the Israeli occupation, the church is not alive. It is very interesting that that right now the number of Palestinian Christians is steady, but it's not getting more. Why? Due to the Israeli occupation that we are facing constantly on a daily basis. Like, for example, today accessing the old city and accessing Jerusalem, accessing to different places. Also, it is amazing for me, for example, when Jesus said, "Let the children come to me," while many children in Palestine have no access to water and sanitation, have no access to electricity and all of that. We come in a pilgrimage where we stay in 5-star hotels, and yet we don't really think of these kids, don't think of these children. We just read it, and we just read it on Sunday services, and we never really, in fact, think about it or do something about it. So what is a pilgrimage? A pilgrimage is that we do something with the local community, we visit and interact and spend time with the local community, and that is really what we're trying to do here. Therefore, what I will share with you this evening, I am going to share with you a different image of Palestine, an image a lot of people do not even think about. So it is an invitation for everybody that comes to Palestine to think of those who have no access to water, think of those who have no access to electricity, think of those that are currently under siege, think of those Palestinians who cannot move freely on their land for any kind of reason, for religious, for healthcare, for any, access is completely limited. So people do not know. People cross checkpoints, and the tour guides are being told to say that this is for something about security, while it is about apartheid and so on. Why? Because the tour guides might lose their business. The tour guides might lose their permit to enter Jerusalem with the control system that is imposed on the Palestinians, and the economic embargo that is imposed on the Palestinians. It is also reflected in tourism. Now, also many of the tourists come and visit and interact with legal settlers and visit illegal settlements, like in the Dead Sea area, for example. Any entrance fee you pay for the Dead Sea goes to the settlements. It's very sad. It's very important. People visit many sites that are under occupation, like, for example, as well, that are controlled by the occupation, and that store is controlled by the occupation, like in Qumran, where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls near the Dead Sea, like in Silwan, like the tunnels under the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and many other different sites in the West Bank, in the area occupied in 1967, and many other areas where Palestinians are not even allowed to write their own story. And this is how the powerful write the story. And we really need to make sure that we understand how this happens. But having said that, I am going to share with you some different images of Palestine. Let me start by showing you this short film, okay? So I'm going to share my screen, and if there is something in the audio, please let me know. All right, share screen, okay. Where is it? Here.
Not all those who wander are lost. Adventure is a path dissolution of fixed certainties. Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. It doesn't matter. Climb the mountains and get their good tidings. Let nature's peace flow through you. Breathe. Kindness is a language that the deaf can hear and the blind can see. This will change you. Nothing will be black and white ever again.
I will stop sharing this video and go to other things. You like the video so far? You can say like this. Thank you. I know some of you did see the video before through my tours in the US. Thank you. Now I'm going to share with you just information, very quick information about Siraj Center, and then I will speak about the Palestinian Heritage Trail very quickly. So then we'll open the floor for questions and answers based on the Carla as moderator. So I'm going to share another screen with you. Where is it? Which one? Okay, I think this one. Okay. All right. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Siraj Center. Siraj Center is part of the Palestinian Center for Rapprochement between people that has inherited the civil disobedience of Bet Sahur from 1998 when we refused to pay taxes for Israeli occupation. And Siraj Center is a non-governmental, non-profit tour operator based in Palestine. So Siraj Center works globally. We work in the West Bank, that includes Jerusalem and the 1948 areas, visiting everywhere and covering what we call responsible tourism. So this is what Siraj Center does. For example, in Siraj Center, we promote environmental tourism, hiking, biking, the Nativity Trail, the Palestinian Heritage Trail, and so on. We invite people to, we do interfaith programs, we do engagement, we encourage people to do engagement with the local community, and we do that as a part of empowering and the rural area. When people are visiting, spending some dollars there, this will help developing different areas. And we work with a wide range of people all over the country. I mean 1948 and 1967. What types of programs that we put together? For example, every program itinerary is a kind of a challenge for us that it is really very important. It's very challenging to put a program itinerary. Each program itinerary is a story. We spend a lot of time working on and developing each program itinerary. So between hiking, like we spoke about Nativity Trail from Nazareth to Bethlehem, hiking or along the Palestinian Heritage Trail, biking programs like Bike Palestine. We encourage people to have homestays, and homestays are spread all over the country and Bethlehem area. Intercultural programs where people can be visiting and have different types of experiences with a local family. And as well, we take people to visit and meet with the Bedouins, including overnight and sunrise and so on. We have organized many interfaith programs, fact-finding, pure political fact-finding, and a mix between community-based Christian pilgrimages with fact-finding. And so and for special interest groups like women, like students, like different types of experiences that we put together. I will tell you that we annually host more than 15 American universities that come here in pure fact-finding programs, meeting Palestinians, Israelis, and so on, trying to understand and come up with and touch with the occupation by their own hands and learn about what's happening. And hopefully this is very important for us. So basically what we do is pure cultural political, yet also enable the people to come and visit all the holy sites, but meet the cause of justice for Palestinians. This is really very important. We encourage very much the people to visit and meet with the local communities, and we put all types of programs between homestays, meals with families, visiting different types of community-based organizations across the country, because we have a very wide network all over. We are very specialized. We are one of the people that started the new idea of hiking as a pilgrimage in Palestine. People can walk literally as a pilgrimage from Nazareth to Bethlehem along the Nativity Trail or the Palestinian Heritage Trail. And that will enable people to stand on environmental issues, get to experience local hospitality, try the food, and learn about the topography and the landscape of the area, because Palestine is very rich with a diverse landscape, diverse flora and fauna, diverse cultures in different places. In these types of programs, we turn people from being guests or tourists into guests, and the service providers from service providers into hosts. So guest-host relationship, that's a relationship that we built, and that's what we put together. And that's how things really develop. And that's how everlasting friendships start between people globally with our local people here and the local community. Of course, we have been awarded several times these types of awards, but it takes time to keep applying for awards, so we stopped doing it. These are our websites. You can take a picture with your telephones. So you can go to Siraj Center, Walk Palestine, Bike Palestine, or paltrails.ps, so you can have access to information about everything I have just said. I am going to stop sharing this for now, and I'm going to move to another idea. So in this idea, I'm going to share with you a little bit about cultural heritage. That is really very important. Yes. Okay, so tourism and cultural heritage. Cultural heritage in Palestine. Normally, heritage is the main part of the Palestinian culture. But heritage, normally, it is all a human production. That's what really makes heritage. Heritage is really, it's a human inheritance. It doesn't matter that if there is a heritage in Chile is the same as it's a human investment for me as a human being living in Palestine. So it's very important the way we look at heritage. Heritage normally includes cultural heritage in Palestine, religion, architecture, food and cuisine, music, folklore, handicrafts, people, stories, and nature. Now, there are two types of heritage. There is what we call tangible heritage. So heritage like something that you can touch and you can feel and you can see, or intangible heritage. But intangible heritage, which is really facing a lot of danger currently in Palestine, which is the know-how. The intangible heritage, for example, we build terraces or we make a certain meal in a different ways. The know-how is what we call intangible heritage, like the stories, the songs, the music, the accents, and so on. So this is really very important that we take a look at it. So religions in Palestine, as you can see, we Palestinians we inherit all cultures and civilizations and religions from thousands of years until today. So what makes me a Palestinian today is that Islam, Christianity and Judaism are part of my cultural heritage and the ancient religions that existed in Palestine. So this, what makes me a Palestinian, it's part of my heritage, but also it's part of my identity. All of these religions, we inherit them. And of course, Samaritans, I forgot to speak about Samaritans. When people come and visit Palestine, they rarely have the chance to meet with different shrines that are very important and really reflects a very good story. I want to tell you, I don't know if you can see the cursor of the mouse. Can you see it? This on the top to the left is the Prophet Moses or Nabi Musa shrine, which is near Jericho in Jerusalem, very interesting place. The Artas Monastery outside of Bethlehem. Some people believe that this is the place where David wrote his Psalms. Marsaba Monastery, women are not allowed to access, but it's 1500 years old monastery that's still alive, one of the monasteries that's still alive in Palestine. But also we're here in the left, in the picture where the people are standing. Some people believe that Abraham prayed in this area. So this is near Jenin, by the way. But I want to draw your attention to this baptismal font here to the right. This baptismal font is from the town of Tekoa. Last year, the Israelis came with a lot of military vehicles and confiscated this baptismal font from the town of Tekoa, claiming that the Palestinians do not do anything about it. And the Palestinians actually were putting it on our trail, and it is mapped out in our trail, and many people come and visit. I want to show you places that people do not visit. There are thousands and hundreds of monasteries in the wilderness that people do not go and visit, but people need to make an effort to reach out to, and they are left over. Israelis do not allow the Palestinian Authority to excavate and write the stories because they are in Zone C, and it is left for looters to come and destroy the areas. Very, very, very sadly. For example, here, these footprints, they are supposedly in Bani Naim. Some people say they are the footprints of Abraham. But this is in Zone C, and to get to visit the area is not very easy. Enjoying the terraces of Palestine. I know many people will see it, but you know, right now we are facing the issue of the know-how to build terraces. Is not many people know how to build these terraces and put it together. It's the first thing the Israeli settlers destroy in order to build an Israeli illegal settlement in the West Bank. For architecture, it is very interesting to visit places that are beautifully put together, like these small, nice boutique guest houses that people can visit. The Palestinian architecture that's put together, you can see buildings that are hundreds of years old. Like my office now, where I am sitting, is about 200 years old. And there are guest houses in this way that people get to enjoy the old city of Nablus, the old city of Hebron, and different areas. These are ideas of the beautiful architecture guest house like this is in Dahriya and Yatta in the southern part of the West Bank that are beautifully preserved for visitors just to come and visit. The cuisine and food. Of course, you can see to the right the falafel, the Israeli national food. Oh, sorry, I forgot. The Israelis stole our national food. It's not just stealing our land, our lives, our water, everything about Palestine, but also stealing our national food and stealing our culture and cultural heritage, stealing our religion, stealing everything has to do with us. So this is really very, very important. With all the types of accommodation that we offer, people get to have a very good experience with the best types of food in different ways, and the best coffee and the best tea that people can ever have. It's the best thing is not just to eat in a hotel or dine in a restaurant. They can be really good, but when you are at somebody's house and see how they make the food, and the best food that people can ever have. Give you an idea, makluba, for example, to the top, and making coffee on the fire, and this is maftool, locally made maftool, which is like couscous and beautifully put together. This is, in fact, for any tour operator to put together these experiences, they need to go out of their way. They really need to go out of their way to do this. Sometimes it's difficult for them, so they consult with us and we have them out. Homemade food and all of this. This is to the right here. This is made at somebody's house near Hebron, for example. Music and folklore. We encourage every group or every visitors to encourage the music and the folk music and experience it. I want to, in order to be faster, I will show you this video. I just want to say that this hall is in the town of Sebastia. It is a town where John the Baptist was beheaded, for example. It is the place, it is a Crusader hall. This particular place is a Crusader hall, so about 800 years old. But this group of students put together this group. When we pay them for doing any performance, this performance was only for me. I was the only audience. And I filmed this with my telephone. When we pay them, it helps them a lot with their lives. And this is shepherd's flutes and people doing all kinds of experiences. Very much encourage people to, when they are here on the ground, people want to buy gifts, to visit community-based organizations and purchase their gifts from them. And it's a direct sale from the people who make it, which is really very important. I know that you might go to souvenir shops or cooperatives and so on, but this is also, we encourage people to go to buy it directly from the people. To learn about nature, the different types of landscape that we have here in Palestine, 5 different landscapes in a very small area. This landscape is unique. In Palestine, 5 landscapes. It does exist in small areas. Sometimes in one shot, you can see 3 types of landscape from one view, and you can learn about it. So the diverse weather, diverse flora and fauna, and so on. Also, hear about people's stories, storytellings. We are totally now gathering a lot of stories from the ground between tangible and intangible heritage in order to document it in all the areas of the trail. It is really costly a lot of money. But I would say we are successful now in gathering stories for about 100 kilometers of the trail. This is about the presentation. I want to stop sharing here and go for another story very quickly. Do I have time, Carla? No.
No, I'm afraid we're at the end of our time.
Yeah, can I have 2 minutes? 2 minutes quickly.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. I would say, where do I need to go now? Here, no. No, not this one. Okay, not this one. No, I'm gonna stop sharing. Just a second. Where is it? The sharing is hard for me. The sharing is hard for me. So maybe I will not share. I will do this later on. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me. I can speak about many other issues, but I wanted to share this with you.
Well, thank you for your wonderful, informative presentation. We have a few questions and a lot of expressions of appreciation for your presentation in the chat. A lot of people saying they can't wait to go back. And so the first question is exactly that. Do you know when it will be possible for people to travel to visit Palestine again? When will tourism be opened up again?
As you know, we are under Israeli occupation, so we are tied up with what the Israelis come up with. As far as I know, that the airports and the crossing borders from July 1st will be allowed for independent travelers to come. So people who are vaccinated and they have the vaccine certificate can come. It is during this time is a bit hard for people to come because there are tourists who have started coming, by the way. It is a bit hard because people will be taking blood tests. So we are waiting for this to change. We are hoping next month this will change and people will be allowed to come in if they show the certificate of the vaccination. We are waiting to hear from this. So far, individuals can come in, but they will take the blood test and they will force people to stay in a hotel nearby before the blood tests show that they have the antibodies. So therefore, it is a bit difficult during this time, but we are hoping it will ease up very soon. So people within the coming few months can start coming back. We have some groups booked for October, November, January, in December, January, people are coming for sure.
Okay, great. And someone had a question about the Franciscan chapels that have been excavated, but have been neglected. Can you say a little bit about that?
Where was that? Franciscan chapel, where, do you know the location? I am not sure 100%.
A reference to 13th century Byzantine sites.
I'm trying to find out. Okay. I'm sure that we actually, there are many excavations that took place by different universities, by Harvard and earlier, and some Palestinian and Jordanian excavations between 1948 and 1967. And now, according to the Oslo Agreement, the West Bank has been divided into Zone A, B, and C. So I'm sure that you guys are familiar with Zone A, B, and C. Zone C, which is about 61% of the West Bank, which is under total Israeli control. The Palestinian Authority is not allowed to do any kind of excavations. There are thousands of cultural heritage sites that we are not allowed to excavate or to take care of. And yet the Palestinian Authority even cannot protect because the Palestinian police is not allowed to come there. And the Israelis totally do not care. So people go and dig in the sites and take whatever they find and sell to Israelis. So we are really facing a lot of problem with losing our cultural heritage for this reason. As you can see how this is really put together.
Thank you. And one person was wondering, George, if you work with Hijazi Eid?
No, he's no, not really. We are we do all of our work here locally, and we do all of the everything we do in terms of hiking, biking, cultural, political experiences, pilgrimages, right on the ground. Yes, for sure.
Okay, I think we'll draw the question and answer period to a close then and move on to our book presentation. So George, thank you so much. That was very informative. And you've given the website so people can look up your information and find out more.
I am going to write down at the chats my email and our information. All right.
Thank you. So now we'd like to turn it over to Gid ten Berge. We'd like to give you a few minutes to talk about your new book, Pilgrimage with a Mission. So let us go ahead, Gid.
Okay. I start to remember the 2009 Kairos document with the call, come and see, to continue pilgrimage to the Holy Land, to bring there a message of peace, love, and reconciliation, but also to see there the truth of our harsh reality. In a conversation in 2010 with Nora Karmi, we were talking, among other things, about the new theology course I had begun as a retiree. She asked me, why shouldn't you take a focus on come and see? I took that to heart. In 2013, I had the opportunity to travel with a Dutch group of Metaflor, a group of Catholic and Protestants, and I interviewed them before, during, after, and even 2 years after their return. Why? To find out what kind of travelers they actually were. One considered himself a true pilgrim, the other neither a tourist nor a pilgrim. Are such ideal types really useful for examining my subject? I asked myself. A literature search showed me that everything that is said about pilgrims and tourists takes place on a sliding scale. Victor Turner, the godfather of pilgrim research, put it this way: a tourist is half a pilgrim if a pilgrim is half a tourist. The first part of my book was therefore written from a social, cultural point of view. I wanted to know where on that imaginary axis between pilgrim and tourist our come and see travelers are, as justice pilgrims, but also as responsible tourists. I came across an article by the famous cultural critic Zygmunt Bauman. I felt challenged by his contention that the pilgrim is an extinct human type, sympathetic though it is, but an anachronism. If that's true, I thought, behavior. But for that, I had already seen the phenomenon. The phenomenon is still far too topical and evolving. As a result, my questioning shifted. In the second part of my book, I did a bird's eye view of the Christian pilgrimage phenomenon through the ages, especially pilgrimages to the land. Difficult, but also motivating for me. There was no historical or theological standard work on pilgrimage at all. To begin with, I went back to the disciples of Jesus Christ, who allowed themselves to be sent by him with his message of love to the ends of the earth. And it occurred to me, mission must be the oldest Christian pilgrim motive. I then saw the first, already more tourism-like travelers emerge in the 4th century. They visited not only holy sites, but also, for example, hermits who were for them fellow believers and witnesses of faith on the spot. I understood meeting fellow believers and other inspired people of justice may be seen as a second central pilgrim motive that also recurs in Come and See. In the Middle Ages, I saw the rise of the armed pilgrim, the crusader, but also Francis of Assisi, who acted as a typical pilgrim of peace. During the Renaissance and Reformation, I came across both Catholics and Protestants who, as new critics of pilgrimage, gave shape to the internalized moral pilgrim. I saw him with Dante, Erasmus, Thomas à Kempis, Ignatius of Loyola, Luther, and Bunyan. And so I came to the third central motive of the moral pilgrim. In modern times, I noted the emergence of pilgrimage as a form of mass mobilization. I saw Christian Zionist pilgrims appear, but also those of Pax Christi and other groups. I read about the first call of Michael Pryor to listen to the living stones, as well as to want to be open to the storied places, as Mary Gray called them. So the narratives of the holy places as mirrors, as critical mirrors for the land today. And of course, in passing, I also paid attention to Jewish and Islamic pilgrimage phenomena and discovered major differences there as well. Toward the end of the book, I reminded that Come and See is an ecumenical call meant to renew pilgrimage because critical reflection is a recurring part of it, but also the encounter with both like-minded and dissenters. In conclusion, Pilgrimage with a Mission is a scientific study which I have tried to write in an accessible way. I hope that it will find its way not only to universities, theological and tourism schools, but also to churches and their institutions, to tourist guides, to pilgrims and tourists themselves who want to know who they are, where they come from, and who the others are that they meet in the pilgrim arena of the Holy Land. Friends of mine, especially Pax Christi Netherlands, enabled me to translate my PhD into English. It can be found online, but I also have 300 copies printed, and I may distribute them free of charge. It's my deep wish that the book will be read by the right people. Now, how do you receive it? I already wrote it in the chat, my Gmail address. Send me an email with the mailing address, the post address, of course, where the book should go. And as long as supplies last, the book will come to you. Is it clear so?
Yes, we can see that now.
giettenberge@gmail.com.
Okay, dankjewel, Giet. Thank you for your presentation. There were some interruptions in your audio, so we exercised patience while listening. So he has shared his email address. It's also been shared in the chat.
Yeah.
So you can follow up with Giet by contacting him via email, and you can request the book, or the link is also available to download it as a PDF online. So we're coming to the end of our hour. We do thank you for joining us. If you are able to stay a little bit beyond the time, we will continue with our advocacy actions now. Ryan, could you please put the options on the screen? So these options are also shared in the chat, and all of the text is available on the web page for this gathering. Today's Kumi actions, which you can see on the left, is to share images showing possible tourist destinations in Palestine. These are places that can be visited using ethical tourism standards. Mr. Rishmawi, George, do you have any thoughts on what advocacy our viewers should engage in at this moment?
Yes, I think people need to put together what type of advocacy work need to be engaged with. Sorry, can you repeat the question, Carla?
What sort of advocacy would you encourage our viewers to take at this moment?
Several things. Number one is encourage people to come to Palestine, which is really very, very important to see by themselves. And number two is telling everybody that doesn't know about the story of Palestine by trying to reach out friends, neighbors, families, and also write to their congressperson and your representatives, write to your politicians, and also trying to write articles and op-eds in local newspapers, not just national newspapers, local newspapers, so more people will know, as well trying to reach out to United Nations information about Palestine in terms of, and spread the news out about it. Please help us by going out to demonstrations, and because this helps a lot to show more and more people going out and demonstrating. Please boycott products that support the occupation, products that support the Israeli military. Please write to your government asking them not to support Israeli buying more weapons, and trying to be engaged with the boycott, divestment, and sanctions against the occupation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So at this moment, we're going to give you some time to take action on these suggestions to help raise awareness on ethical tourism options in Palestine. The information that you need is going to be shared in the chat, and we'll give you a few minutes to get started. You can also chat in the discussion chat if you like. We'll be playing some music, and we'll come back in a few minutes to finish up. Take a look at the links that'll be shared here, and start sending your letters or doing your posts on social media. Thank you everyone for posting images of Palestine and for maybe starting to write a letter to your political representatives. And thank you for joining us today for this learning time and for staying a few minutes past the hour. A link to a video of this gathering, along with all of the links that were shared today, will be available on the Kumi Now website and on YouTube in a day or so, and it will be shared in the next newsletter. You can subscribe to Kumi Now on YouTube and subscribe to our newsletter to make sure you receive all these notifications. We would appreciate if you would share this video session with your friends and colleagues, and as well as information on future sessions. We'd like to thank our guests, Mr. Rishmawi and Meneer ten Berge, for being with us today. Thank you for your time and for your work. Do either of you have any last thoughts you'd like to leave us with in these final moments?
Thank you, everybody. And so many faces I know from previous visits. Thanks for all of what you do. Please don't hesitate if you have any question to write me. I just left my email, and I'm happy to help with anything you want, between advice, establish a connection, and or any protocol information, any information you don't know how to reach out to. I'm happy to help you with anything you need. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time, for all your work and support. We rely on you for spreading the news of justice for Palestine.
Thank you. So next week, we will look at developments in the lives of Palestinian refugees. If you would like to be reminded of the online gatherings an hour before they begin, you can register for email reminders at kuminow.com/online using the form at the bottom of the page. Thank you again for joining us. We hope to see you back here next week. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night.
Okay, bye-bye.